One of the biggest drains on a speech-language pathologist's time is the students or clients who remain in direct services longer than necessary. So as part of our caseload makeover that we are doing this winter, we are talking today about how to fast-track your clients who are close to dismissal. I am Carrie Clark, speech-language pathologist and owner of Speech and Language Kids, creator of the SLK curriculum, which is our all-in-one program for teaching communication skills to children and teens. So this month and last month, we are diving into this idea of how do we do a caseload makeover? How do we go through, find the inefficiencies in our system, figure out what can be done better, more quickly, more energy efficient, and streamlining our processes and our caseload. Okay, so today we're digging into these kids who are close to dismissal, but are still kind of lingering in services that are kind of sticking around. And not only is this hard on us as speech-language pathologists, but it is also hard on the students because attendance is one of the best predictors of student success. This is why all of our schools are constantly harping on attendance, making sure our students are there in seat as much as possible. So when we are pulling them for their services, they are missing something. And yes, we try to avoid pulling them out of some instruction that they might need, but even if it's not instruction, they're still missing on practice time or time interacting with their classmates, all of these things that are still really, really important for their growth and their learning. And so if we are pulling them and we don't need to be pulling them, then we are doing them a disservice. And same thing if we are seeing them in a private clinic or outside of school, that is time that they could be, number one, just being children, having free time, which is really important, but also maybe the ability to go participate in some extracurriculars or do something else that furthers their learning and growth as well. So we really want to consider when we are providing direct services, is this the best use of our time, the best use of the student's time? We have to keep in mind that the purpose of our direct services as a speech-language pathologist is to use our specially designed instruction, right? That's one of those keywords from IEPs and the law. We have to use our specially designed instruction to teach skills that they are missing. They come to speech because they are missing something that other teachers and specialists are not specially trained to teach like we are. We have special learning strategies, special teaching strategies, all of this different stuff that we got from our graduate program. These are the pieces that they come to us for, the pieces that only we can do, okay? So we teach them these skills. We use whatever tools we have out of our toolbox to make it so that they can learn this skill. And then once they can demonstrate that skill with us, they no longer need that specialized teaching to make progress in that area, okay? So once they get to that point, once they can show us that they can do it and they can respond to the cues, then they just need to generalize those skills. And actually, we as speech-language pathologists are the least appropriate person to help them with this because we do not see them all of the time. We probably see them for the shortest amount of time out of any of the adults that work with them, right? Because we're only seeing them for that however many, 30 minutes a week or maybe twice a week that we see them for speech. The most effective way to help those clients generalize those skills is to have the adults that are with them all day, every day, supporting that piece. And I'm not asking our teachers and our parents to become speech-language pathologists. I'm not asking them to do therapy, quote unquote, with that child. I'm asking, hey, we know that this skill is in their skill set. They are capable of doing it. We just need some prompts and reminders put in place throughout the day to help support the generalization of it. Okay, so we're not being selfish by pushing for dismissal or pushing for a generalization phase where we are no longer directly providing those services. We are making the most effective use of time and strategies for learning. We're also ensuring that that student is receiving their free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment, which is literally the law. So if those sound like buzzwords to you, it's because they're literally straight from the law. Every child has a right to a free and appropriate public education, at least in our country, in the United States, and it should be provided in the least restrictive environment, which means the classroom. The classroom is the least restrictive environment unless that child is not capable of learning and growing and doing all the things they need to do in that environment. So yes, at some point we say, okay, this child has been given lots of opportunities to learn speech and language skills and they're struggling. We now need to pull them out of that environment in order to teach them the skills in a different environment. And then we're going to push it right back in to that classroom and get them into that least restrictive environment as quickly as possible. So when we are holding kids in direct services longer than necessary, it's actually a violation of their civil rights, which I know sounds really like scary and intense, but I was listening to a continuing education course and the presenter said it that way to me. And not to me, I was part of it, but she said it to everyone. And it really kind of took me aback because that's not the way we think of it, right? We as speech language pathologists, we want to help everyone. We don't want to say no. But when you look at it that way, if they have the right to be receiving all of the same activities and services that other children are getting, if we are pulling them out, we are actually taking that away from them. So we're not being selfish. We are being effective and we are giving kids what they need by making sure that we are not having them linger in services and we're not keeping them on our caseloads longer than they need to be. So today we're going to talk about how do we fast track these kids. And this means getting them to meet their goals, getting them to learn the skills they need so they can get back into the classroom, back to their regular lives without needing all this extra time and support from the speech language pathologist or other therapists. Okay, so this is our fast track to dismissal. And I'm super excited to announce that we have a toolkit now available. I've had a lot of really good response to this idea of how do we choose when to dismiss children. And so I have created a packet, a toolkit for you guys that has the tools you need in order to make these decisions, the dismissal criteria, how long do we do each of these phases, what do we decide, when do we decide to move on. It's all wrapped together in a toolkit for you. So if you are a subscriber to the SLK curriculum, you have this for free. It is already included in your subscription, so you can get it inside our hub at hub.speechandlanguagekids.com. However, if you are not a subscriber and you would just like to grab this toolkit, the toolkit is available for just $19, and that is a one-time $19 purchase. You do not have to sign up for the recurring subscription. However, I will tell you, if you buy the toolkit for $19 and you decide you want to upgrade to the full subscription, I will let you apply that $19 to your first month so that the monthly cost for the subscription is just $50 a month, and that gets you access to everything, all of our curriculums, all of our AI-powered material generators, all of our courses, all of that's included in the $50. But if you just want to try out the toolkit, that's an option. And then if you want to get the full subscription and get the toolkit within the subscription, that's an option as well. So I'm going to walk you through all of these steps. You do not need to purchase any of this if you want to just do this on your own. But if you are looking for these tools that I'm going to describe, if you just want to buy the toolkit, go to speechandlanguagekids.com/fast, F-A-S-T. Or if you want to sign up for the subscription, it's hub.speechandlanguagekids.com. That's H-U-B, hub. And there is a free trial on that for a week, so you can try it out for free. Okay, so here's the steps to fast track a dismissal. You ready for this? Step number 1 is to fill out progress monitoring checklists with the team. So inside our toolkit, we have a progress monitoring checklist for each of the main 6 areas. So that's speech, language, fluency, functional communication, social communication, and voice and resonance. Those are 6 areas. And there's a progress monitoring checklist for each one. So each of the checklists has 2 overall rating scales. So for example, the language ones are how well do they understand speech or language and how well are they able to produce it. And so it's just a rubric, a 1 through 5. The teachers, the parents, the caregivers, the babysitter, us, everyone fills one of these out, and then we compare the data to see where they are in therapy, okay? So on a scale of 1 to 5, how well can they understand? Well, if everybody says 5, then we're doing really good. We're probably moving to dismissal. If everybody says 1, then we're probably needing a lot more direct services still. So that's the first part of it. And then the second page of the progress monitoring checklist asks about specific challenges. So it'll say, okay, is the child able to ask and answer questions? Are they able to sequence and retell a past event? And so the teachers, the parents, everybody again is going to check boxes for where we're seeing the challenges. And that's again going to give us more information about which skills are missing and how they're doing with those skills. All right. So step number 1 then is for everyone on the team to fill out the progress monitoring checklist for the specific areas that that child has qualified in. So maybe it's language, maybe it's speech and language, or maybe it's speech and fluency. Whatever ones that they have been working on, we're filling out checklists for that. Then our second step here is to make sure that everyone on the team understands the therapy process. Just like I explained it to you at the beginning of this podcast, the purpose of therapy is for us to use our specially designed instruction to teach those missing skills. Then once the missing skills are in place, then we move back into the classroom, back into daily living, and we have them use those skills throughout their day. Okay, so direct services is supposed to be a temporary solution to teach skills before they're ready to generalize them. Okay, and so step 2 of this process is to just explain that. And so inside our Fast Track to Dismissal toolkit, there are handouts that show this process, that show how we move through these phases. If you are familiar with a multi-tiered system of supports, which is, tier 1 are the education everyone gets. Tier 2 is when they're struggling and they get a little extra support. And then tier 3 is, direct teaching and direct speech therapy services for those missing skills. So everybody's starting with 1. If they're struggling with tier 1, then they go up to tier 2 and we add that on, et cetera, et cetera. So there's handouts inside my toolkit that explain that. And so we want to make sure everyone on the team understands the process of, okay, just because a child qualified for speech doesn't mean we expect them to be in quote unquote speech class for the rest of their education. This is a short-term solution to help teach some skills before we push that right back in. Now, we also should at this point help everyone on the team understand that we as the SLP are not abandoning children when we say it's time to generalize. We are still there, but our role shifts from the direct teaching of those skills to the student. Now we shift to supporting the teachers and parents in carrying those skills over. So we're still involved. It just looks different. All right. And one of the handouts that I have inside that pack also explains the SLP's role at these different levels and provides a menu of supports that the SLP can provide. For some children, as we're going through the generalization phase, that might still look like us coming in and working with them 5 minutes here and there just to make sure they're remembering how to do the skill. For other children, that might be creating visual aids and supports for the classroom teacher or doing training with the parents to show them how to use the strategies. So it's going to look different for every child, but the menu of supports is going to give you options to choose from with the team. All right. Okay, so then step 3, now that we've explained the therapy process to families and teachers, we want to use the decision guide to choose a phase. And so for our toolkit, I created a decision guide that you will sit down with the team and fill out. So on the decision guide, it explains that you will fill out the progress monitoring checklist, which hopefully you've already done and everybody brought it to the meeting. And you're going to circle the areas that you're considering, speech, language, etc. Then there's 3 boxes. One says indicators supporting direct services. One says indicators supporting a generalization phase. And one says indicators supporting full dismissal. And there's check boxes in each of those areas where you will check about how the child is doing. And that will help you guide your decision on whether they still need full direct services, some sort of a generalization phase, or they're ready for dismissal. Okay. So our criteria that are in these boxes are things like what are their overall scores on the rating scales. So if we have overall rating scale scores of 1 to 3, remember it was a 5-point scale, then we're probably still looking at they need some direct services. If we're at maybe a 3 or a 4, then we might be looking more at a generalization phase. If they are at a 4 or a 5, we may be looking at a full dismissal. Now that's not, none of those are end all be all scores. There's no one cutoff line. You'll notice that there's overlap, and that's intentional because it should be a team decision. We should be looking at a lot of factors, but that's one of them. Okay. One of the things the other 2 things, I guess, for direct services are if many skills are checked on the progress monitoring checklist as needing to be worked on. If they still have a lot of skills to work on, probably more like direct services. If they still require direct teaching to build those missing skills, we're looking at direct services. All right. Then moving over to the generalization phase, if we see that skills are present, but they're not consistently being used yet, that's a good indication that we're ready for generalization. If they're able to correctly demonstrate the skills in the therapy room, that's an indication that we might be ready for generalization. If they're able to use the skills when prompted or reminded, that's a cue that we're ready for generalization. And if they still require reminders to use the skills throughout the day. And then finally, we have our full dismissal. These, the indicators here are that their skills are functional and that they're using them independently, that they're usually able to demonstrate the skills independently, but only occasionally need reminders or support, or just that they no longer require direct services to continue to make progress. And so we don't have to be perfect to get to full dismissal, especially if we are maybe in a school building where we still are around, we still have direct contact with the staff, with the parents. If anyone needs anything, they can still come to us, even if this child has been dismissed. But once we see that they're making progress in the regular classroom, then we no longer need to be directly involved. All right. So then based on that, there's just a recommendation section at the bottom of the decision guide that says we recommend direct services, generalization phase, or full dismissal. Now, this is not a legal form. It's not something that's a part of the IEP, but this is something that you can use to come up with that decision with the team to help everyone understand why you're recommending a reduction in services or why you're recommending adding consult time. Whatever that looks like, we can go through that process together. And the decision guide gives you a structure for doing that makes it feel more structured and less intimidating. Okay, so that is the next step, is to use the decision guide to choose a phase. Are we in full services or direct services, generalization phase, or full dismissal? And then from there, we want to finalize the plan with the team. So once you know what phase you're in, it makes it a lot easier to have those conversations about how many direct services or how many direct minutes should this child have? Should we add consult time on, or is it all directly with the client? And so we can have those conversations at that time. So you're going to determine whether the SLP will have direct contact, such as with like maybe a short 5-minute check-in, or if you're only going to have consultation minutes. You definitely, if you're moving to a generalization phase, you definitely want to make sure you are adding consultation minutes and then reducing direct minutes as we are transitioning away from that and into the other, right? We want to spend some time training parents and caregivers and teachers on specific strategies that support that individual's needs. And that is what those consult minutes are for, is to do that training, to do that touch base and make sure that they have what they need. And then ensure that those supports and strategies are put into place in the room, maybe creating visual aids or helping to modify the environment in some way. And then also that keeping those all entered and listed in the IEP or in the therapy plan so that we have record of what those strategies are. If you're in the US, that can go into the accommodations and modifications part of the IEP. But that way, if they are to move schools, if they were to get a new teacher mid-year, those things are already documented and we know what they are. All right. So that is if we are, that's step 4 then, is to finalize the plan with the team. Now, the other thing that I created for this Fast Track to Dismissal Toolkit, which I'm really excited about, is a form that I'm calling Tag Your It. And so this is the piece that I was struggling with my own clients, because there are several of my kids who don't need to be in therapy anymore. They are so close to being dismissed and they know how to do this skill. These are mostly my R kids, right? Where I say, you know how to say the R sound. When I say, they go, oh yeah, and they fix it. They don't even need me to remind, to tell them what the problem was. They know. They're aware. They're just forgetting to do it, right? And so the piece that I wanted to create for myself, so I did, and now you get it too, is some sort of page where I can fill it out, hand it to the parents and teachers, and it says, hey, now it's your turn, right? Tag your it. I taught them the skill. They have learned how to say the R sound. Now I need you, they need you to help them get to the finish line. They just need to remember to do it now. And so the tag your it form says, hey, we've learned a new skill. Here's what we need from you. And so it says, so-and-so has learned to blank, and you put the skill in. And then there's a section where you can put in prompts and cues that help them do it correctly. So if there's a certain way that you phrase it or a certain way that you want them to prompt it, you write that there. And then it says, okay, here's where you come in. Now that they've learned it, we need to help them remember to do this throughout the day. And then there's a list of strategies that help generalize skills. It's our generalization strategies. And then I'm here to help. If you need anything else or if you have questions, please contact me. And there's your contact at the bottom of the page. And it does say at the top in all caps, tag your it. Because I want this to be an understanding that this is not, you don't send your kid to speech and then the speech therapist fixes them and sends them back and never the tween shall meet, right? This is a team approach. And so phase 1 happens in the therapy room, and then phase 2 happens when they get back to the classroom or back home. Okay. And so tag your it. Now this is your part of it. So that's included in there as well. There's also a longer generalization handout that has some more strategies and doesn't say tag your it at the top if that's a little too whimsical for you or you'd like something more professional. We do have a more professional version as well. But I like the tag your it because number one, stuff comes home with my kids in their backpacks all the time. And I do. But I don't really in-depth read everything that comes home. If I saw something that said tag your it at the top, I think I would probably go, wait, what? And then I would look at it and go, oh, okay, I see. So that's my way of catching attention on that page. So yes, both of those are included in that toolkit, the Fast Track to Dismissal toolkit as well. All right. Now, if you get through your process with the decision guide and you realize that they do still need direct services, then that's kind of a different pathway, right? And it's possible that they may be ready for dismissal on some things, but not others. And so we may say, hey, we're dismissing speech services because speech is doing really well, but we still have some language concerns. So maybe speech is at a generalization phase, but language, we're still providing direct services. And so it's okay to kind of mix and match. But if you do feel that you still need those direct services, that is where our SLK curriculums are going to come in clutch, because those are going to give you everything you need to teach the missing speech, language, or communication skills during those direct services time. So the way that works, you choose a goal, you download the goal packet, you complete the data probe, and then you do the activities. Everything's laid out. It's all ready to go. So those are huge for getting the direct services part done. And then when you get to the generalization phase, that's where you use the pages like the Tag Your It or the regular generalization handout, and all of the guides and decision guides and forms and everything that help make that process easier. Okay, so all in all, the big picture here is we just need a plan, and we need it to be a structured plan so that we can feel confident coming to these team meetings and saying, hey, I know he's been getting this service, but here's what I think is the next stage and why I think he's ready for it. And we can help everybody get on the same page and understand the process so we can really be making the best choices for our clients. So there we go. Like I said, if you would like to grab that toolkit, it is available for a one-time purchase of just $19. You can get that at speechandlanguagekids.com/fast, FAST, or if you're ready to jump in for the full subscription to the SLK curriculum, it does come included free with that. You can go to hub.speechandlanguagekids.com and start your 7-day free trial and get access to everything. If you have any questions, let me know. I am super excited about this Fast Track. I hope you are too. I can't wait to see how it goes for all of you. So hop into the discussion board and let me know how it's going and if you've been able to use any of these forms yet and how they're working for you as well. All right, bye for now, and we'll see you on tomorrow's episode of the Speech and Language Kids podcast.